Matt's the most awesome. He's on our pro staff. He's an awesome angler. He's probably the best back boater that I know for sure. Super duper guy. And Matt's going to come in right now, just like it, as if he was coming to fish in a tournament with all of his equipment that he comes with. As you can see, he came with a bunch of rods, and he's got some rain gear and warm weather gear combination there from Striker. And he's got his backpack with all of his different stuff and his jaw thing so he can grab onto the fish. His scale. Yep. And he's going to go through all the stuff. But anyway, Matt, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Matt's been with us many times. He's one of our pro staff here at FISH307. Super angler, really nice guy. We can all learn a lot from him. I know I certainly do every time I listen to him. And like to thank you for coming and presenting this program for us tonight. Matt came with all of his stuff. He's got nice bag here. I'm going to open it up and pick a little bit just to. Ooh,
yeah, I just brought.
Look at that.
Things there.
Yeah, I know it's like Christmas time. It's like here, hold on a second.
Yeah, okay. I just brought a few hard baits and stuff, and then a couple packages that we sell.
This is how Matt comes to a tournament. He comes prepared with all the stuff that he feels he's going to need to throw for the day. Hooks, sinkers, hard baits, soft baits. Probably there's some scent or something in there. There's some Berkeley stuff. There's some little bit of everything. Anyway, he also brings his lunchbox. So he's got a cooler here that would normally have a sandwich and some beverage and things. So he needs to stay hydrated. That's very important when you're out as a co-angler on the water. If you don't stay hydrated, your day will not be good. I have been there, and it's not good when you don't have
anything to drink. It
becomes a long day. And, of course, he has to have his life vest. That's a must on the tournament trail to have a life vest with you. So, anyway, thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Jeff.
For coming.
Thank you.
And we look forward to listening to what you have to say this evening. Take all the time you need. You guys out there, if you have any questions anytime during the program, please ask. And Eric, our technician here, he will ask Matt, and it'll all be so we can hear it, and it'll be good. We have a couple people here in the audience this evening. And thank you for coming.
All right. As Jeff said, my name is Matthew Belmore. I live up in Indian Lake, New York. So I'm going to go over the co-angling tournament fishing and what being a back boater actually means, and maybe give you a little advice on how to do a little bit better at it, be more productive, or actually get into it. So it's kind of an interesting topic for me. I've been doing this. This will be 16 years of co-angling. And some medical issues that keep me from actually operating a boat. So co-angling is what I do. What is it? Co-angling usually is a start-off point for people that want to get into tournament fishing, or they want to graduate up to being a boater, but to get into the tournament aspect and to move up, get a little more knowledge and gain experience to start off as a co-angler, which I kind of suggest to anybody that's going to be a boater that they do a little bit of co-angling first. I think it's always a really good idea. You tend to learn a ton. So don't be scared of that. What else? What is it? You're fishing in the back of the boat. Everyone is drawn. So there's a boater. He's operating. He's sitting up front using the trolling motor, and he gets to decide where you guys are fishing for the day, where you're going, and it's basically on him. So and you're fishing out of the back of his boat. So you're kind of at I don't lack of better words, disposal. You got the back. You got the back. It can be a very challenging position. especially when you have somebody that's up front that is very good, fish magnet, a fish magnet, and they're not leaving you too much. But that's basically what it is. You're not fishing against your boater. You're not fishing with your boater. You are fishing against everybody else that's in the back of the boat, another co-angler. Yeah. So it's just all co-anglers against all co-anglers, boaters against all boaters. It just, if it wasn't broken up, it wouldn't be fair, because there's huge obvious reasons for that. But so that's basically the gist of what a co-angler actually is. Now, it can go. You don't even have to be a tournament angler to get a little bit off of this. You can be fishing out of the back of your boat just with your buddy and struggle to catch fish with him because he's a fish magnet. So this will help you out a little bit to research research the water. And I'll start with what circuit to fish, because there's all sorts of circuits, all sorts of trails, and there's all sorts of clubs, charity events, kids tournaments. I mean, it's endless. So you got to kind of choose what you want to fish, and then from there, choose what bodies of water you want to fish. One club might be not be fishing as many waters as you want to that is good for you. So you might cherry pick, it's called, and only fish one or two of that trail, and then move on to another trail and cherry pick a few there too, depending on the strengths of the water that you fish. Or you dedicate yourself to a single circuit and fish the whole thing, like I do with the ABAs. My first schedule through the year is to mark down all my ABAs, and then everything goes around that. So I dedicate that to that more than anything. And that's another thing you have to worry about is schedule discrepancies, because a lot of these bigger tours and bigger clubs, there's only so many weekends and only so many days that they can hold tournaments on different waters, especially with permits and everything else. Tends to be a lot of collisions, and so you try to fit the trails or the circuits that's going to be best for you. Also, the time of the year you're fishing some of these lakes, sometimes of the years, lake fishes harder. Say it fishes really great in June, but in August it fishes horrible, and you're better at it in June and July, and you don't want to fish it in August, and that's when it's scheduled. You probably want to fish something else where it's closer to the date where you feel more comfortable fishing. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Also, what licenses are you going to need to fish for the bodies of water you're going to choose? Lake Champlain is one. Sometimes you're going to be fishing the Vermont border. Most of the time you don't need it, but St. Lawrence River is one. You're going to need a Canadian license depending on if you're fishing the other side or not. I know when you're going down south, the first time I went to Tennessee, I really didn't even think about getting a Tennessee license until the morning of the tournament. I was like, oh my God, I'm in Tennessee. I need a Tennessee license. And when you get really busy and you have so much going on, you tend to make stupid mistakes like that. So just keep that in mind. What licenses will you need? Registration and payment. After you picked everything that you want to choose, and you pick the lake that you want to fish, you contact. Most of the time you can do it right over the internet, or you show up at the day of the tournament. But most of the bigger trails, you have to register in advance. It depends on how much and there's cutoff dates. So you want to make sure, I always give myself months in advance. Give yourself months in advance if you can. And the reason why is because there's only so many boaters and there's only so many co-anglers. And if there's more co-anglers than there are boaters, then what happens is then only a certain amount of co-anglers can go. So if you're not linked, you can end up not fishing the tournament. So make sure that you're linked. I can't specify that enough because there's been a few tournaments that I've showed up to. I've been linked like 90% of the times, but there's a few tournaments that I've showed up to, and
what
there's been
what does that mean, by the way? I'm sorry. Like link it to a boater. Like how does that work?
A link to a boater is you know a boater, right? That's already confirmed that he is in the tournament. He knows he's in the tournament, and you connect with that guy, and it automatically secures you a spot to fish the tournament. So without a link, you're stuck to the back. So all those people that don't have links are the last ones. So say there's 74 boaters, but there's 90 some co-anglers. Well, only 74 are going co-anglers. So everybody that's not linked there, those 74, it's only, so you want to make sure you're linked.
Is it set up before, or is it random the day of? Like as far as like not the linking part, but as far as like the way that you fish with your boater, like do you not know who you're going to fish with the day of?
Yep. That's part of it too. Yeah, you don't know, and I'm gonna get to that right after this. Yep, no, I'm gonna get to that. But so after linking, that's what we were just talking about, linking. How much? It depends. Co-angler is less than a boater. It's usually half. I know ABA is like $105 as a co-angler, but I think it's 200 and I believe it's 210 as a boater. I know in the bigger ones, the MLF and the Toyota and the BFL, it skyrockets to 200 and then 500 or something like that. It goes higher and higher. But most clubs that you get into, they're around $90 to $100, and you're splitting that with a boater for the day. Some are draws and some are teams. So, and to decide what you're doing, if you've got a really good team partner that you fish with a lot, and you guys do really well. Sometimes straying off to a co-angling thing, I mean, it's a good idea to at least try it and get into it. But if you're really good as a team partner, that might be better for you. I did that for years. It was just fish team tournaments, and like 4 years ago, kind of straight off to doing single tournaments as well. But I'm still, as far as a team partner, I think that's where I excel more than anything. Me and my partner are we're good, and we're hard to beat when we're on. But that's kind of how I started, and then I wanted to expand and learn a little bit more different styles. So we'll get on to the next one. The jaw we were talking about, Eric. Boat jaw. Now you don't fish. How do I explain it? Okay. So everybody's name goes into a hat basically, but it's not into a hat in a computer, and it's all randomly drawn. So you have no idea who you're going to be with, no clue. So that night before the tournament, you end up getting a message or you get a call on who you're going to be with. It gives you a name and their number, and you give them a call, and you guys talk a little bit. What is discussed? I mean, there's all sorts of stuff that's discussed. I choose to try to keep it as short and simple, because I try to not let what they're doing affect what I want to do myself. A lot of people get too dialed into what they're doing and end up tying up everything to what they're doing, which is, I don't believe is the right way to go about it.
When you say they, who, like
Your boater.
Okay.
Yep, your boater. What is discussed normally? Well, first off, it's going to be what time are you getting to the boat launch? Where are we going to meet at the boat launch? Or he might even ask you to meet before the boat launch, maybe at a gas station or something like that, and make it easy. Sometimes it makes it a little bit more difficult, but easiest thing is usually just to meet right at the boat launch if possible. What's discussed after that? Usually it's a quick game plan. It's usually like, oh, what are they biting on? Well, the thing is with that is you don't know who your boater is staying with. You don't know if he's staying with a bunch of other boaters. You don't know if he's staying with a bunch of co-anglers. You don't know if he's by himself and he's worried that I'm going to spread information that I've just gotten from him. So a lot are very tight-lipped, which I cannot blame. They will give you a general roundabouts idea. They'll be like, oh, well, I got him on a Texas rig and I got him on a chatterbait. Like, oh, okay, all right. Try to soak in that a little bit and go like, oh, okay, that's his couple bites there. That's how he's gotten. Try to get that information, but then go, where are we going? Any idea? And if they'll give you an idea, they're going north, they're going south, we're going west, we're going east. Long ride, short ride. Weather is often discussed. If it's a north wind, we're going to be there. Or it's a south wind, we're going to be here. That's normal stuff that's discussed.
Do you know what you meant by too dialed in? I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep interrupting you, but I don't want you to get too far away. We're talking about being too dialed in.
I don't remember how I was talking about it.
That's okay.
How was I talking?
Okay, I'll make it. Keep going.
I don't remember exactly.
What else do we discuss?
Yeah, well, those things. Yeah, weather. Yeah, weather's huge because you want to be in the morning. You kind of want a game plan anyway. We always look at it the night before to kind of get a game plan, especially I do as far as what I'm throwing, because if there's like 12 to 15 mile an hour winds, I might not be throwing a tiny little crankbait or something. So, or a hair jig or something like that. But those are mostly everything that's discussed there. Anything else you can think, Frank? Bring you up. What else is discussed? Yeah. Oh yeah. Good call. Good call. Yep. Another one. Yeah. Um, Bait choice as far as largemouths and smallmouths too. That's a big question. Like most of the time, I can't believe I didn't even bring it up. Is like, am I fishing largemouths or smallmouths? Are we fishing weeds? Or are we fishing clear water or whatever you want to sort of game plan of what your rods are going to be like? Like Frank was saying also. That was great. Excellent point, Frank. Preparation, that's part of the thing that we were just talking about, was preparing for the weather, because you get to the boat launch and it ends up being a little bit colder than you thought it was going to be, and it's not even to take off, and the wait out in the boat is getting long and your teeth are chattering and you still have a 40-minute long boat ride. or it's raining and it's 40 degrees outside and you're not prepared, your boater might be a little upset with you, because you're going to be frozen and might end up getting hypothermia. So make sure you're prepared for the weather and 80-mile-an-hour boat rides, because it does happen. I did 84 miles an hour one time in a boat, and I thought it was kind of funny when he pulled out a helmet, and I was like, and I'm like, what's going on here? You're like, we're in a boat. We're in a boat. But he was wearing a helmet for a reason. When I looked at the speedometer and we were doing 84 miles an hour, I was like, okay, well, that's why he's wearing a helmet. That's why he's wearing a helmet. That's what, yeah. Yeah. So you'll see it. You'll see it every once in a while. You'll see people wearing helmets. You'll see people wearing face masks and goggles, and be prepared. Be prepared, because the weather gets nasty, and especially like St. Lawrence River. How bad does it get? Like it gets disgusting out there. Lake Erie, Ontario, Lake Champlain, Sacandaga. I mean, all those places get horrible in a blink of an eye. Make sure you're prepared for the weather. You don't want to start out by upsetting your boater because you are not prepared whatsoever. Like, oh, I didn't bring a jacket. I didn't bring a jacket, or it's, yeah, not good.
So you really don't have any control or say on where you fish, pretty much.
No, zero, absolutely not. You're gonna go by what he's doing, whether usually the night before, and the night before conversation, that's discussed. He'll either say, I'm on fish, I did really good, I had a great practice, or I wasn't on them at all. Like I've been pre-fishing for 2, 3, sometimes 4 days, and I haven't caught a thing, or I've caught a few, but I don't have anything steady, and all that is discussed because your boater is doing the pre-fishing. Unless you're lucky enough to know a friend that has a boat, or somebody else that is going to be competing, and you can pre-fish with them and get a good idea of what's going on. But that doesn't always happen. A lot of us co-anglers don't get to pre-fish. I'm lucky and I usually get to. But
what if the boater does stuff that basically makes it so you can't catch anything? It's kind of screwing you over.
Well,
you don't really have much say in the matter, do you?
No.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, you don't. You don't.
That's a tough spot to be in.
Man. It is. The co-angling position is incredibly difficult. It's I'd say 75 to 80% mental more than anything. Because you're really, I mean, you got to be in it you got to be in it to win it. Like, I'm not going, whether my boater says, oh, I'm on him or I'm not on him or anything. I'm going there to win, and I don't care what he says. Honestly, there's going to be many times with the boat positioning, it happens all the time when you're not left a whole lot to fish. And that's something else I'm going to talk about.
It almost sounds like being a co-angler is more difficult to me.
It definitely can be at times. You're at his disposal in a way. Does his boat positioning definitely does affect me, especially if like we're paralleling everything, and
yeah, and even if you get off the boat, it doesn't affect. Like if you were to say, okay, you know what, I'm done with this, it's not going to affect them at the end. It's completely different.
No,
even though it's called a co-angler, you're really not in a team. You're doing your own thing. So
that's a pretty sad boat. I know. But that's a basic boat shape. Yeah. Basic. Look how sweet that is. Can you believe it? I went to school for art, and that's pretty bad. So, shoreline, shoreline, okay, boat. So, if you're back here in the back of the boat, right? Your boater's up here. He's got first cast on on everything, and I'm gonna go over this too. But when you're in the back of the boat and say he's parallel casting this whole shoreline and retrieving back, so all this he's fishing before you ever get a chance at it, right? And most of the time, the distance between here and here is too close, unless the fish are right on shore, and there's usually reeds or wood and stuff like that, and you're literally just flipping. You're not pitching or anything, but you're literally just almost dipping your. And the only place I can think of that I can actually do that effectively would have been Lake Okeechobee. You can do that when you're literally that close, but it's probably the only place that's kind of effective. So that's what can make it very difficult is that kind of boat positioning. Dock fishing can be extremely difficult too, because there's only so many places and so many ways to attack a dock. So that's why it can be difficult, Eric. So preparation, we were talking about preparing for the weather. Tackle, depending on what he says largemouth, smallmouth, whether he's fishing clear water, whether he's fishing dirty water. All those things are going to have an effect on what you're throwing, what rods you're going to bring, and what reels you're going to bring, depending on how serious you get. I know I have a whole heck of a lot of rods and a whole heck of a lot of reels, depending on what I am choosing to do.
So maybe the night before during that conversation is when you kind of can decide.
Yeah, that's when you get your prep going. That's gotcha. When you get your prep going. Yeah, after you get that talk done, that's when you buckle down and really narrow things down. I usually try to have stuff prepared before I even talk to them because I don't like going off their information most of the time. Normally, I have enough information on the bodies of water that we're fishing that I don't need to go off of what they're telling me. So those are all things you need to have buttoned up. You want to make sure the rod and reel combo that you have for those circumstances is what you're going to need.
And going into the tournament, like as a co-angler, you don't know what your boater's strategy is going to be, so you have to bring basically everything.
Yeah, that can be difficult. And then when you're trying to fit, your boater tells you, well, it's going to be a split day. We're going for largies in the morning, and then we're going for smallmouths in the afternoon. Well, now that makes things a lot more difficult for me because now I'm going to try to narrow instead of just packing for largemouths or just packing for smallmouths. Now I'm packing for both species. Yeah, and he's like, oh, well, I'm fishing clear water and dirty water. So now, like, the list is getting a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. And depending on how serious you are, your bag tends to get heavier and heavier and heavier, and that's a mistake. That is a mistake.
You could probably leave some of it in, depending, like the night before or whatever. You could probably leave some of it in your hotel.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I end up leaving a bunch. I mean, I end up bringing probably 200 or 300 pounds of stuff to the tournament itself. But after the conversation, I'm down to this. I'm down to a single back, which can be very, very hard to do, but it is possible. And I think it's in the next slide. Anything else?
No.
Yeah. Morning of the tournament. First thing you want to do is contact your boater. I'm usually the first to call. It's usually good as a co-angler to call your boater. Don't have to have your boater call you. It's just I don't know. It's kind of just a golden rule kind of thing. Like your boater's taking you out for the day. He doesn't want to have to worry about what you're doing or if you're going to be late or anything. Call your boater and get it discussed. They don't want to have any issues first thing in the morning.
Yeah, you don't want to throw them off and then have a bad.
Yeah, no, it's just a
day.
bad way to start the day. It's just a bad way to start the day. The least amount of confrontation you can have first thing in the morning, the better. Yeah, so contact him, talk to him, and meet up with him. When you're meeting up with him, he's gonna say, "Oh, throw your tackle in the boat." And sometimes, most of the time, it's not a rule, but most of the time they leave a back compartment open for you. It's usually the back left where your seat would be. It's usually open for you. They usually leave that so you can fit your tackle bag in it. Don't expect to fit your tackle bag in a cooler in it because it won't happen. Done that for 16 years, it won't happen. So usually, yep, just your tackle bag, meet up and get everything somewhat organized in there because some boaters, I mean, these boats are worth over $100,000 and they don't want stuff all over the place. They want everything nice. They want everything neat. They want everything clean. And they don't want to have to worry about when they're walking to the back of the boat, stepping on anything or you stepping on anything of theirs. So keep it neat, keep it tidy, keep it simple. Backing up the boat and not backing up the boat. This is a big deal because again, these boats are $100,000 or more. How much was yours brand new, Frank? Brand new, that Puma. What's it come? Right.
Frank's boat 106, 107,000.
Right. Yeah. And Johnny's, it was like $113,000, $114,000 for his Ranger.
You don't want to make any mistakes backing that boat up.
Yes, exactly. And your boater is going to ask you, are you comfortable? Are you not comfortable backing in the boat?
Oh,
Now,
he's going to be on the boat at the time, is what you're saying.
yeah, well, you're going to talk to him while you're loading. And yeah, he's going to be like, or I'm going to bring it up to him. Do you want to back it up? Do you want me to back it up? And most of the time he says, are you comfortable? Are you comfortable backing it up? And I have no problem backing it up, but there's a lot of people that do. They really, really struggle on backing it up, especially some co-anglers because they've never owned a boat. So
it's kind of like doing something when somebody's watching. It's a lot.
That too. There's hundreds of people there, and it's dark and lights are blaring back if they don't know to turn their lights off when they're when they're dropping their boats in, and it gets hectic. There's people running in front of you, behind you, and some people just ain't comfortable, especially when your boat's worth over $100,000. If I wasn't that comfortable backing in a trailer, I wouldn't do it. And your boater would rather hear that from you than you just try to do it anyway, not be safe. Tell them, I cannot back up a trailer, or I do not feel comfortable backing up your trailer. I just can't. And most of them are going to be very thankful that you told them, because if something does happen, you might not end up having to ride home. So, make sure you're comfortable if you're going to do that, because there's there's a lot of accidents at boat launches when there shouldn't be, and if you can't back in the boat, ask somebody else to back it in, or your boater will back it in, and you can meet them out in the boat. Most of the time they'll just drop you off or tie off the dock, but make sure you tell them. And paying the boater, you pay your boater gas money before. I always do it before the tournament. This is a good way to break the ice with your boater. It costs a lot of money to operate these boats, a lot of money. Frank, how much does it take to fill up your tank?
It's $150.
$150 to fill up your tank.
And is that, do you know, like, would that last you, or do they have to like, fill up every day? If they do, or
Oh, that's for the day, you know. So I mean, if he's running, you could run $100 to $150 worth of gas in a day.
oh, easily. So if I was to show up for a tournament, what should I like plan on bringing?
Yep, and that's part of the night before discussion too, unless you just have the cash on hand and talk to them then. But is how far of a run are we going? Are we staying close, or are we running? Because you want the money in your pocket anyway. But how far are we going? Because that's a big thing. If he's making an hour run somewhere, or an hour and 20 minutes, I've had to make runs like that, really long runs, and you want to give him $20, that's not cool. That's already gonna rub him the wrong way. So
that's more of like an etiquette thing than
it is.
Thing.
Yeah, I mean, the gas money is a required thing. It's like you better do it. Like, and but
I'm not saying you would want to plan to not do it. I just mean, like, is it one of those things that's kind of like you should, so you do, but it's like not one of those things that's necessarily.
I would call it necessary. I would call it necessary. Yeah, no, I mean, these guys are spending all sorts of money to operate these things, and they've been practicing for 3 or 4 days. Did you imagine running, you know, if you're making an hour run 3 or 4 days to practice?
Oh yeah.
You know, and then you have the tournaments. Some of the times the tournaments are 3 or 4 days long, but I mean, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
So, if, like I said, if I was to come, what do you think? $100?
No, nothing crazy like that. Nothing crazy like that. I'd say the golden rules is $40 for me.
Oh, really? Okay.
I don't go any less than $40. A lot of people
Is that a day?
try like $30 or try to get away with that or whatever. I say bare minimum's 40. But, last year I gave somebody $100 because we ran, and I mean we only fished for 2.5 hours, and the rest was all running time. So I ended up having to give them a nice little wad of change, but I ended up doing really good in that tournament anyway. But it's what you feel comfortable with. Don't go giving them $20.
Yeah.
You know, if you're staying within a mile or 2 miles, whatever, that's a different thing. But most of the time, your boater right off the bat, like when you give him money, he's gonna be like, "Oh yes, that's awesome." Sometimes you'll have a boater that'll say, "I'll talk to you about it at the end of the day," and that's because it's based on how they get along with you during the day, and it's an inappropriate fee is what they get.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like they charge you a little bit more.
A butthead fee, or you know, like, because if you're that freaking guy, you're that guy in the boat, that back of the boat all day, and he's thinking of you as a nuisance. It's just not. It's not good.
Yeah, and he's gonna charge you a little bit more.
See, the thing is, like, most of the time, if you're really cool, you guys get along all day and everything. If you didn't already pay them, most of the time they don't even want your money.
Oh wow!
You know, a lot of times be like, no, I don't want anything. Yeah, you're like, oh, it was a good day. No, I don't even want your money. But I'm like, argue with them about it, and like, no, come on, let me at least give you something. Let me give you something, and then they'll give you a number. Fine, like whatever. But I usually always give them at least $40. But yeah, if you're staying really close and you're on the trolling motor all day, I wouldn't expect to throw any less than $20, even if he doesn't start the big motor.
Now again, just one quick question is: if you have a tournament that lasts a few days, that's
separate days you would pay your boater.
Okay, that's each day.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Like at the Ray Scott this year, it was 4 days. It was 4 days long, but I only got pushed to 3 days because there was a tornado and the weather got absolutely crazy. So all 3 days I had to pay a different boater.
I was gonna say, do you have the same boater, or is it different?
No, it's different every day.
Oh wow.
Yep, it's different every day. So yep, and the first 2 days, my boater the first day didn't want anything, and I ended up giving him $20
Right.
anyway, just to give him something because I felt bad, because we didn't run very far anyway. But and day 2, I made my boater take 40 because we ran a little bit further, but it was only about 15 minutes. But I made him take that again. But the last day, I ended up giving my boater $80 because we ended up running way upriver. We locked again, and we ended running a long ways. So I ended up giving him 80 for that, and he still didn't want the $80. Right? But I made him take it.
And the boater is the primary. They're the driver as well. Right?
Yep.
It's just you and the boater.
Yep. You are not allowed to operate the boat whatsoever. Nothing whatsoever. And I'll get more into that too. Yep.
Yeah, because that would be an advantage for the boater.
Oh, it's a huge advantage.
Right.
Yeah. It would be a huge advantage for the co-angler if he could come up to the front.
Right.
You know, or if he could operate. It would be huge. Huge. Yeah.
Also known as unfair to other people.
Oh yeah. Yep. Because I could be the co-angler and have more experience on the trolling motor than my boater does. That happens all the time, especially with the younger guys just moving in. You'll have a co-angler like me that's had more time on a trolling motor than the younger guy actually has been fishing. Yeah. So it can sometimes be frustrating for the guy in the back of the boat if he's got more experience than the boater does.
Wow.
So, but that does happen, and people take advice and stuff like that. That does happen, and it's happened to me on numerous occasions where I'm like, I can't believe I'm almost 40 now, but I draw boaters that are younger than me. Frank's younger than me, but I draw a boater that's younger than me, and I end up giving advice as much. But you learn from younger guys just as you learn from older guys. There's something to learn from everybody. That's what's awesome about fishing these tournaments. Always learning. Take off. Did I skip? I feel like I skipped. No. Take off. Bundle up. Make sure you're ready. Like I said, there's people that literally have boats that'll do over 80, and they have helmets, and they have face gear, and they have goggles and everything. And some tournaments are 40, early spring, late fall tournaments. It's 40 degrees. It might be raining, and you're doing 70, 80 miles an hour.
Yeah, you're starting off first thing in the morning, so it's
it is cold. Yeah, it is cold, and you're shivering. Make sure you're prepared. It is such a brutal ride when you're not prepared, and you get to your first spot and you can't pick up, you can't even use
your fingers.
Yep, you can't even use your rod right yet. You're like, oh. Make sure you're prepared. Bring your gloves, bring your hat, bring goggles, whatever you need to. Make sure you're prepared. Make sure everything's buttoned down. I have rod socks on a lot of my stuff. Here, these fancy little get-ups here, and make sure they're strapped. And then make sure your rods are strapped in the boat. Because when you take off and it's windy and they can go flying and take a dip and go swimming real quick. I've lost a few rods. I know numerous other people have lost rods. So make sure they're all buttoned down, and you're all buttoned down. The last thing a boater wants to do is have to stop right in the middle of takeoff because something went flying out of the back of the boat.
Well, if you need foot warmers or hand warmers, you know where to get them.
Yes, we have them here.
Also, a striker jacket.
Yeah, striker jackets. Yes. Good idea. When we were taking, make sure that we're prepared, right? I got this one last year. I've had some other rain gear, but this is from Striker.
Does that have any insulation in it at all?
Yes, this is a warm weather. This is warm weather. And this is just like basically this is Gore-Tex, kind of like your Bass Pro design, the 100 mph, 200 mph. This is basically the same design. I mean, this thing makes me sweat. Beautiful. But make sure you have something pretty warm. You don't want to be cold. It makes for a miserable day. You don't want to be wet, although I don't think there is a rain suit made in the world that you don't at least get a little bit wet. But this Striker gear has seemed to work amazing so far. Yep. Gotta have your life jacket. Do not forget your life jacket. It is not your boater's responsibility to make sure that you have a life jacket. Most of the time they do have another life jacket, but sometimes they don't. And sometimes if they do, it's one of the big, ugly orange ones that nobody that nobody wants to wear. You know, you're like, you're like, oh man, you know, it's like the rental places. Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
camp canoe.
yeah. Yeah. You're like, oh man, I really got to wear that. Yeah, nobody wants to wear one of those. Nobody wants to wear one of those. Yeah, so make sure you got your life jacket. And I bring a cooler. Most of the time they have coolers right in the boats. So if I can dump this off before, like when we're packing the boat, they'll usually say, hey, there's a cooler. You can throw your stuff in there and you can ditch the bag. That would be nice. But if they got no room in the cooler, which happens.
What would you do with it? Is there a spot for you to put your like extra stuff at the tournament, or how does it work?
If they're in their cooler, you mean?
Maybe put it in their vehicle or something.
They have, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
I
you
do.
get on the boat and you're like, okay, let me ditch my lunch bag.
Yeah, in the morning when I'm packing up my stuff into his boat, you know, and I'm like, do I need my cooler? Or he's like, no, I have a cooler. Throw your stuff in there. If the truck is there and I can ditch this, go for it. Yep. But most of the time, my stuff's gonna stay colder in his cooler full of ice anyway.
Yeah.
So if I can
minimize.
If I can minimize it and throw them in here.
Less stuff to trip over.
Yep. I usually have like 2 bottles of frozen water. I like freeze my water the night before, and I stuff them in the sides here if I can get away with that, because I usually don't take the time to eat anything during the day. That's just, I feel like as soon as I put my pole down to eat a sandwich, that could have been the time where I just caught a fish. So I have a tendency of just not putting the pole down to eat. It's hard enough for me to take a drink.
Yeah.
And it used to get that bad where I wouldn't even drink. And then by the time the tournament was done, I had heat stroke because I hadn't drank anything all day and I was sick as a dog on the way home. It's happened countless times.
Now these start first thing in the morning. How do they go? They go 10 hours, 8 hours?
They're 8 hours.
8 hours.
Yep, 8 hours. Usually, well, there's springtime. What is it? 5:30. 5:30 in the morning. 5:30 to 2, or 1:30. 5:30 to 1:30, and then they gradually go to the end of the year. They go up. I think at the end of the year it's what, 7 to 3. So they're always 8 hours long, and weigh-in time differs on how many people are actually at the weigh-in. But the prep, I mean, I can fit everything I need in this bag most of the time, especially if I'm on my home waters, Lake Champlain, Saratoga Lake, Sacandaga, Lake George. I mean, you name it, anywhere up here I can fit everything in here. The only time I really struggled getting everything in here was when I first started going down to Florida, because I had no idea what to expect.
What kind of backpack is that?
This actually is pretty cheap. I don't even know. This is Samurai Tactical or something. It is.
Okay.
No, but it's a good little bag. Um, this is the more sturdy one that I've been through. I tend to go through one or two a year because of how much I pack into these things, and this has lasted 2 seasons, so it's actually not too bad. I don't even remember where the heck I got it, honestly, but it's been a good bag. Uh,
I noticed it has a sunglasses thing on
Yeah.
the front. I think that's probably
yeah,
our key
which is
components.
which is nice. Yeah, instead of carrying your extra sunglass case, this has got the sunglass case right in here, so I can keep my Costas in here or whatever. Keep them nice. It's a hard case, so
You can have ones for varying conditions.
yep, yep, numerous.
also
So
have
I can
those
have
here.
one on my head and have one in here, and this is actually big enough. I've got some cheaper sunglasses too, and where I can fit actually stuff 2 pairs in here.
How important would you say sunglasses are to your?
Huge. Sunglasses are huge. Not just helping you not get a headache throughout the day because you get a headache with sun glare and everything else, but as far as polarized glasses, you can just see what's going on in the water so much better. Takes the most of the reflection off the surface, so you can actually see fish, you see structure and stuff like that. So a good pair of glasses is crucial. Um, it's a big thing, and I think if you don't have a good set of polarized glasses, you're actually behind a little bit, especially if it's um, close to a spawning tournament. Um, just that little bit uh, of help can make a huge difference. So a good pair of glasses.
Get you some Costa glasses at FISH307.
Yep,
Got
Costa
boys.
glasses at 307. We got a bunch of them
Brand
out there.
beautiful case.
Beautiful glasses. Yep, yep, they are. They are, and fit just about everything in here. I didn't bring everything with me. I just brought a few things with me, but I got enough room. Make sure that I've got my scale, and I've got my scissors, and I've got culling clips in here, and make sure now I've got different
Surgery time.
yeah, because um, I've got different sizes, and I've even got dentistry tools and surgical tools because sometimes these fish, depending on what the bite, every once in a while you'll hook a bad fish, and sometimes a regular pair of pliers ain't gonna do it. So every time I go to the doctor, I tend to ask him or the dentist if I can get a tool. So uh, next time, ask your doctor or your dentist to hook you up with some tools. But always have these. Those are the things that I always pack. There's enough room where I can keep my scents in one side. I'm a big believer in that, and I got enough room to fit a spool too. I always carry an extra spool line. Um, Most of the time it's when I'm using a spinning rod. I have a spinning rod, and I'll bring a leader line with me all the time. So that's in here. Let me think. This has got enough space.
I got a
Actually,
quick question for you, if you don't mind.
yeah, go for it.
Amber Randall says, "What's your favorite fishing technique, if you don't mind?"
Ooh, Amber. That's a good question. My favorite fishing technique is frogging.
Yeah, I
Ow.
like the frog.
Yeah, I just whacked my
Here, let me pull this back.
thumb. I put a drill right through my thumb the other day working on my boat. So frogging's my favorite. It can be extremely effective for catching big ones, catch small ones too. Um, It can be a great bait, and it can be a really bad bait, depending on what time you're throwing it or where you're around. Sometimes frog just ain't it, but frog's my favorite, without a doubt.
One more question from Amber.
Yes, Amber.
How many tournaments do you fish during the season?
Usually around 30. I think I have 20 something scheduled this year, around 30. But as far as single tournaments where I have to draw, I only just do the AVA, Amber. So that would be what, 4 and our championship, and then if you qualify for the race cup. So that would be it. That would be it.
Quite a bit though.
Yeah, yeah. No, it keeps me busy.
Yeah.
I think I only have three weekends, and one of them might be filled up that were open that I had to fish. Yeah,
3 weekends out of your whole
that
fishing
I can like.
season.
Hey, yeah, that I'm gonna be able to actually fish something else besides what we have scheduled.
Wow.
Yep. And what another thing is, I mean, I can fit a ton of stuff in here. I mean, this is all plastic because I try not to carry too much in this top. I mean, I can still fit plastics in here and everything else, but I can fit more of these boxes in the top as well. And I'll keep my hard baits up here too. I mean, but this is all Yum. This is all Bandito. This is all Rage Craw. All Kitech. This is all Rage stuff. I mean, this will get me through a whole day and some more. But that just goes to show you. I mean,
that's what you would bring to each to your tournament.
well, depending on what I'm doing. If I'm not going to be flipping or pitching all day, then I won't even bring it. And I probably won't bring this. But if I'm running swim baits and stuff like that, and chatter baits and everything, I'll bring all my swim tails and my stuff like that. But normally this all goes.
Wow.
Only because of color choice.
Yeah, you
most
want
of
to be
the
able
time.
to switch it up.
Yep, I want to be able to switch, and these are all my confidence. This is all my confidence stuff that I have to have with me at all times, no matter what lake I'm on. These always come with me. That's why I have these specific ones, like these 4, no matter what. I mean, Frank, how much does this weigh? So,
So 25 pounds worth of lures with it.
that's
And
just
that's just the baits, right?
that's just plastics.
Plastics, yeah.
I mean, I go a little overboard. That's only because sometimes when you really get into them, and they're smaller fish, like especially with these Kitechs. I'll point this out, like this little Kitech swim bait here. These are very soft, and they got a little tiny tail. And when you're around small fish, say you're at Sacandaga or Saratoga Lake, or you're just around finicky fish, like they pick your tail off all the time, perch too. And if they're on this color, I only have that many. Say I catch 20 fish that day, I'm not going to have enough. I just ain't going to have enough. I'm going to lose them and lose them and lose them. So I tend to go overboard and bring more than enough. Because I've been stuck in that position when you're out of your juice. You're like, oh no, and that can be a tendency of being a confidence killer when you just ran out of your best. You're like, oh no, which sometimes that matters. Sometimes that's a really big deal, and sometimes it isn't. But
Well, Amber wants to know. She says, "What's the largest bass that you've ever caught and where?"
7. Well, this is kind of hard. We caught some giants. I didn't even. My biggest smallmouths were at St. Lawrence, but we caught so many. We were catching so many, and I think this one we weighed was like 5 pounds, and it wasn't even my biggest for the day. You know, we had 6 pounders, right? 6 pounders, and like we weren't even weighing them.
So basically, what you're saying is you catch so many fish.
We were catching so many at St.
That you
Lawrence.
don't even-
We were
you just
they were.
not enough.
I mean, it was an epic day. I had like 27 pounds in the back of the boat with 2 other people. Frank had over 20. TJ had over 20. I had 20. Oh my, it was relentless. But I have to say my biggest smallmouth is probably around 6 pounds. My largemouth, 7.1. 7.1, which is still in New York, good old Hudson River.
I think this is a good question. Just in my personal opinion, Amber says, "Will you share baits with your boater if he doesn't have what he needs or what you're catching him on?"
Yes, I do. Yes, I will. This just happened at the Red River, actually. Day one, my boater was kind of struggling. Awesome guy, Sal. If you're watching, you are the bomb. But struggled a little bit, and I was throwing something a little bit different, and I was catching him. And he was like, "You're killing me. You're killing me with that back there. You're killing me with that back there." And one of the first things I always do, if it goes one way or the other, most of the boaters are going to say the same thing. You're welcome to anything I got.
I was going to say this. I was going to ask the opposite.
You're welcome to anything I got. And the first thing I said to him was, "I have another one of these if you want it." And I was like, "But you only get one because I only brought 3." I was like, "I only brought 3. So you only got 1. That's it." You know, and he debated on taking it. He was like, and he didn't. He was like, "You know what?" He's like, no. I'm gonna stick to my gun here." And he stuck around, and then he picked up a bait that was similar to what I was throwing, and then it ended up starting to catch it. So, that happened, and there were a couple of times down in Florida too where I ended up having to give a bait. I was just absolutely demolishing them behind my boater with fluke. For some reason, he didn't have any flukes. It's kind of a common bait, and I was just lighting them up. And again, was like, "Can I give you these baits?" I was like, "I have a bunch of them. Do you want them? You want them?" And here comes a pride thing. Where they'll either take them and swallow their pride, or they won't, and they'll be like, "No, no, no, no," and they'll beat a dead horse. And sometimes it's better to just swallow your pride and take what you're like, you know, all right, or okay, all right, it makes sense. I'm gonna do it. So, but I try not to let that affect me and try to run my own pattern if I possibly can. Rules of the boat. Back 180. Hey, and this is where this horrible,
beautiful, beautiful.
this horrible picture comes in. Yes, back 180, front of the boat, back of the boat. This is the shoreline. It's paralleling this. Okay, you are the back 180. So you would take the boat and split it directly in half, like that. And if I'm here, your boater's here, he's able to cast here, anywhere in this area, and you are able to cast anywhere in that area.
And that's actual tournament rules.
Yes.
Okay. That's not just.
This is where there's a gray area. This is what, okay. Now, this is where your boater has control, because this is the boat positioning thing. Like Frank knows about this too. If you're really hugging this there, I'm obviously not going to be too effective fishing this right here. Now, some boaters will be really cool, and they will say that you can cast here. They ain't going to let you ever cast way up here. but they might extend your angle a little bit. And that's most of the time, that's when you're fishing current, because they know that you don't really have a choice. Because if you casted here when you're in current and he's moving forward, literally you'd have your bait in the water for a second before you'd have to get it up. It'd be a waste of time. It'd be a waste of time. So most of the time, it's pretty cool if you're fishing current. Most of them are pretty cool if you extend a little bit. But normally, you have the back 180 here, and if he's paralleling and he doesn't want to give you this space, and he doesn't want to give you this, which he doesn't have to, he does not have to, but it's kind of called backboning, which it happens. But if this is taken away from you here, this ain't working. Okay, this ain't working. You're stuck. You're stuck with here. Okay? Now, this I gotta kind of stop because it goes into more because we're just going over. So you're back 80. This is your area. This is his area. Landing fish. The only time that you can come up into the front of the boat, the only time you are allowed up there in the front of the boat during that tournament would be to land a fish or an emergency circumstance. So you stay off the front deck unless you're helping him assist to land his fish or he's helping assist to land your fish, because sometimes.
Okay, so that is allowed though. You can assist each other land.
Yes. Okeechobee, Lake Okeechobee. I ended up catching a 7-pounder. I hooked her back here, but by the time I landed her, she was over here on the other side of the boat, and I had no choice but to run around the boat and bring them over to the other side. I had no choice. I would have broke that fish off 10 times if I didn't get to do that. So you're allowed in the front in circumstances like that, but other than that, you got to stay away. Oh, now this is another thing. Ignore local information. Ignore information. Now, this is a rule put in place in a lot of big tournaments: ABA, MLF, Toyota Series, BFL. There's constantly people in other boats around you, and there's constantly people on the shoreline, and they're constantly yelling out and talking. And they're like, blah, blah, blah. There was a fish here last week and blah, blah, blah. And you can't take their information. You cannot.
Because you don't know if they're trying to sabotage.
You just can't take. It could be amazing right there. You have no idea. You obviously have no idea. You're just fishing around and all they say, hey man, there's always a 5-pounder right here at the edge of the dock. You can't get that. You can't take that information. You can't take that information.
Oh, so that's actually the rules.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought that
no,
was like
you're not allowed to take when you're fishing in the tournament. You cannot take information.
No, that makes sense.
Yep.
Makes sense because that's another unfair advantage.
Yep, it is. You can't take any information. So when people are talking to you on the shore, and it happens all the time, you kindly ask them, please don't give me any information. I'm in a tournament. Please don't. I'm in a tournament. And it happens.
And real quick, can I just come back? You had mentioned MLF and BFL.
BFL.
What are those?
Bass Federation. Bass Federation, and MLF is Major League Fishing.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. So ignore the information. What you learn on the boat stays with you and your boater, and don't talk to anybody else. Number of rods. This is going to be up to your boater. Most of the time, they're pretty cool and say, take as many as you want. Golden ticket rule normally is 7 to 8 rods, but I do have to say anything more than 7 or 8 is kind of obnoxious, and then you end up spending more time with them all wound up together, and you're constantly fighting to get one out. So it's just not worth it. Cut your rods to 7 or 8, and if you can even get away with less than that, then that's awesome. There's a couple places that I can go that I only need. I always have about 7, and that's just dependent. There's so many circumstances that can happen during the day that I usually rock 7 or 8, but you don't want to bring any more than that. They'll kind of look at you funny when you start bringing 9, 10, 11, 12 rods.
Is it something about a golden ticket or no?
Yeah, just the golden ticket, golden rule, 7 to 8 rods.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
That's your ticket.
Yeah. Yeah, your designated storage area behind your left side. Well, behind the co-angler's seat is going to be where you stash your stuff. Sometimes they have that full. So this will be underneath your feet, underneath your knees. So
Wow.
yeah, you don't have anywhere else, so it's gonna be right there between your legs. So you don't want to bring a whole pile full of stuff because it could end up sitting in your lap. So think about that. This goes with preparation too. Net, no net. Some people don't bring nets. Some people don't have nets. This is part about being a co-angler. Been doing this a long time, and I've been around long enough to know that that's a good question to ask. And the night before or in the morning is, do you have a net? Because there's been a few instances where in a tournament and I call for the net and there's no net. I'm like, oh, I've got no net. I've got no net, and I've lost a few really quality fish because of that. So that's one thing that I like to discuss is net, no net. Do you need one? I'll bring one. However, but make sure that's kind of discussed. And then they usually will ask you, or you ask them. I always bring it up and say, don't worry about me netting your fish. I will be there. I will be there to net your fish. Don't worry about it. I will be there. Some people don't want you to net your fish. Some people do. And they get mad when you're not right there waiting, which I'm always there, so I don't get yelled at. But yeah, discuss that with your boater. He might expect you to be there. He might not want you there. I've actually gotten yelled at before because I was there and he didn't want me to net his fish. And I was like, it's just a normal thing for me in a tournament setting to come up to net your fish. That's just what it is. Some people don't want you to touch anything. So discuss that with them. Fishing in the tournament, where to cast and why. Where to cast and why. I'll just put it to you. I would just say pay attention to where your boater is casting. I kind of suggest fishing. I wouldn't directly cast in the same spots that he just casted, except when you identify a pattern, and this might be the follow-up. And when it's the follow-up pattern, it means his last cast, he just casted, reeled out, and he just made now his new cast all the way up front. Okay, he made his new cast. Where his last flip was, say his last flip was right here, and then he just casted right here. Most of the time, my first cast is going to be right where his last time his lure was. That's when I identify his the pattern. When I identify that pattern, do I always do that? No. Well, this will be in my sight by the time you cast here. This will be here. So that'll be right in my area. A lot of people won't do that. They won't hit that last spot that he just flipped it. And it because like, oh, well, he obviously didn't get a bite there, or there isn't a fish. That's not the case at all. There very well might be a fish there. He just didn't respond to his bait.
Or he could have been chasing him in.
Right. There could have been all sorts of certain circumstances. He might have scared him off. He might have circled around. You don't know. You don't know. He just might have turned a different direction. But that also creates commotion, and they do. They tend to come off and they circle right back around. When they circle back around and they hit it, that pattern identification, that's part of it.
I got one thing before we go on the next bullet. Amber asks, do you add anything to the live well to help sustain your fish to the tournament day, or do you bring your own?
There's additives, juice. It's like what's it, Frank? It's a blue juice. What are they? G juice. There you go. G juice they make. Help keep the fish nice and lively and healthy throughout the day. Not everybody uses it. I think it's pretty important during very hot weather and places like the St. Lawrence. Oneida gets really hot with the smallmouths and stuff like that. I think the G juice is really important there, but the St. Lawrence, it's good for every fishery, but I think in certain ones it's more important. But I think with or without it, most of the anglers that participate in these things take better care of their fish than they do themselves throughout the day.
Yeah, you don't even eat, but you're.
I don't even eat or drink, but I'm looking at my fish every 5 minutes to make sure they're okay. Like, are you okay, ladies? I just want to make sure you're all right, you know. And but that's what we're all trying to sustain the fishery. So whatever we can do to make those fish comfortable throughout the day, the better. A lot of people are bringing the G juice and bring ice. A lot of the boaters are required to bring ice or asked to bring ice to keep their fish. It gets super hot, and live wells are almost 90 degrees without ice and stuff. Your fish roll right over within a few minutes, so it's good to have the ice in there. It makes some really great live wells nowadays, but ice and G juice definitely help keep them alive. And the pattern identification. I mean, if you can identify the pattern, besides what your boater is, he might have a pattern. But I think what makes you more effective as a co-angler is identifying your own pattern, not going upon their pattern, but finding your own pattern that's working, and being confident in that pattern. This whole thing, whether you're getting backboated or you're getting paralleled or anything like that, what it comes down to, like, you can blame your boater, you can blame your boater all you want, and sometimes that's all you want to do. But what it comes down to is adapting to his fishing style, adapting to what he's doing, and you're really cut down on choices, and you can't get discouraged by what he's doing. Because I mean, and I do, but everybody, I mean, I don't think there isn't one person that doesn't get discouraged, but you got to try not to let yourself get discouraged when it's like that. When you're getting backboated, or you know it's going to be a tough day and the bite is slow, or your boater obviously tells you it's going to be a really slow day, the bite. I'm not around fish. It's just been horrible. The weather is going to be horrible. Don't let that get into your head. Don't let it get into your head. Try to adapt the best as you can. When you show up to your spot, no matter if he says it's good or not, or if he says he hasn't caught a fish here in 10 years, when you pull up to the spot, have confidence in it and say, I am going to catch fish here. There's fish here. I am going to catch fish here. Fish confidently. Focus, fish confidently, and what you're fishing. And what what you have available. What you have available, fish confident and fish your best. And a lot of the times, as a co-angler, you're going to be rocking. I mean, probably the most important baits as a co-angler are moving baits, like this spinner bait or a chatterbait, like a vibrating jig. Let's say another really important one here is just a regular jig. This is a homemade jig, but just a regular jig. These are extremely versatile. I mean, you can crawl this, you can hop this, and you can swim this. It mimics a number of different things. So get used to having a jig always tied on, or a Texas rig bait of some sort. Think here. Another thing that usually, I mean, you're going to want to get comfortable being a co-angler because you're trying to get your bites, and sometimes getting a bite can be really, really, really hard. And sometimes a crucial way to pick up a bite is going to be a drop shot. I absolutely hate throwing it, but where your weight is down below your suspended hook here. This is a bait, flat nose minnow by Berkeley. You can get here at 307. That's really dynamite. You can catch fish from here to Florida to Louisiana and back on a drop shot. There isn't one fish that won't eat a drop shot. It's usually good for a fish. I'd keep that comfortable. And so chucking and winding, but you want your jig and you want some finesse. But you want to be able to fish whatever your bite is. You want to be confident in that thing. So if I'm gonna end up being drop shotting for the day, I want to make sure I'm drop shotting on a rig that I like, on a bait that I like. Because if I'm drop shotting with a bait that I'm not familiar with, that I do not like, chances are I'm probably not going to perform that well. But if I have a little bit more confidence in that bait, I automatically feel like I'm doing better. So, and I'm focusing much more on that bait and on that cast because of the confidence level in that thing. And that comes with your mindset. Positive mindset, whether you feel like you had a bad draw or not, stay positive throughout the whole thing. I think my best tournaments are on tournaments where my boater says they're not around fish, or they have had a horrible time, they're just not catching them. Those are often my best tournaments because my boater's already psyched out.
Right, you're not getting
My boater's already psyched out. And not that it's like he's overly psyched out, but he's not in that confidence, right? He's like in that borderline. You're like, oh man, I'm like, and he's kind of worried about me. He's like, oh, I want to put my co-angler around fish, and he's all worried and blah blah blah, and just, I don't know how to explain it. Kind of.
I'm perfectly with you. It makes sense. I mean, you know, when you've got somebody with you that's necessarily maybe off their game, it kind of gives you a little bit of confidence to be able to kind of get through that. So if you got somebody that's like overly confident, overly like, you know, knows everything and knows whatever, then you're going to have this like kind of nervous thing where you feel like maybe you have to keep up, or maybe you have to whatever.
Yeah.
Or with somebody else.
And it goes both ways too. Yeah. The younger generation kind of gets intimidated with me being in the back because I'm older, and I might have been fishing tournaments for 10 years longer than they are, and it's an intimidation kind of thing, goes back and forth. Yeah. You know, but it's kind of lost track of what I was saying.
That's all right. I got a couple questions here.
Yeah, go for it.
As a co-angler, Amber asks, as a co-angler, do you set up pre-fishing days with a boater prior to the tournament? Unfortunately, probably not, right? Because you don't know.
I try to. I happen to know a lot of people. I happen to know a lot of
So it
people.
won't be necessarily that boater of that day, but you can
Right.
set up with somebody in the water and get
Yep.
pre-fish and
Yep.
do all
Like
that.
when I was just down at the Red River, you know, everybody you get a designated days for 3 days or 4 days, depending on what circuit you're fishing. Some clubs you can fish for a month before the tournament. It doesn't matter. But as a co-angler, not all the co-anglers, because some of them are traveling quite a distance, don't get a chance to pre-fish, and they're going off by what their boater might or might not have given solid information the night before. So that's
You try to if you can.
yes.
Joe Greco says, "Great stuff, Matt. Love to see your passion, brother."
Joey, I love you. I love you, buddy. I love you. We go.
Rochelle.
Yep, that's my girlfriend.
Good job, babe.
Thank you, thank you.
That's
thank
her
you.
saying it, by the way.
Right? Yeah. Are you sure it's not you? Yeah. No. Keeping the mindset. Like, don't go into the tournament thinking you're gonna donate money, because I talk to people all the time, and we talk about it. How many times does it get brought up that after either before tournament or after the tournament? I'm just here to donate. Bad. Get that out of your head.
You're just here to what now?
Donate.
What does that mean?
Donate their money. They come to the tournament just to fish and give away their money because they never win.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the problem. That's part of the problem in your mindset. You're already going there to not win. You're already going there not to win. What's the point? I'm going there to win every time. So before every tournament, I am going there to win, and I tell myself every time I'm going to win this tournament. Every time. Every cast.
Well, we're right there with you every time too, so make sure.
Yep, I mean,
that we got your confidence there.
That's got to be there. If it's not there, you're not going to be successful. You can't go to a tournament and say, I'm like, if it happens, it happens. Well, it might happen, but it's not going to happen as much as a guy that comes in thinking and saying every single time, I'm going to win. I'm going to do everything I can to win.
I know I'm sitting home when, getting those. That's why I like those updates and that stuff, because, I'm sitting home and I'm thinking the same thing. I'm visualizing, you know what I mean? That picture, you holding whatever it is, it's keeping that mindset going.
The mindset and the focus. If you can focus on each and every cast, and it's exhausting. It's mentally exhausting. But that's where the mindset and focus comes in. It plays a huge factor, just being able to focus on every cast, because it could be that one cast or you're not paying attention, and it happens all the time. When you're not paying attention, you get a bite and you're like, oh my god. If you can focus on every cast and catch those bites you're missing when you're not focusing, you can be real dangerous. And that's why some of these pros nowadays are just unstoppable, because their focus is unbelievable. It's just
Speaking of focus, Darcy says, "Great job, Matt. You do so well
at this." Thank you, Darcy. Thank you.
All right, now I'm curious. What is culling?
Culling is when you're catching your fish. Co-angler only needs 3 fish most of the time, depending on the circuit. Most of the time, it's 3 fish, and it's 5 fish for the boater. Your 3 fish, it all goes by weight. So it's your biggest 3 fish, accumulative weight. So I want to bring my 3 biggest fish into the weigh-in, and culling process is you always let go your smallest fish. So I catch a 3-pounder, I mark it in my scale as a 3-pounder. I catch a 2-pounder, mark it in there as a 2, and I catch a 4-pounder, right? And then I just catch another one, and it's another 3-pounder. I go back and I'm throwing that 2-pounder back, and I just keep adding the weight. adding the weight and adding the weight. And that's what the culling process is, just to keep dumping back ounces, basically, sometimes pounds if it's a really good cull. But yep, it's just it's a selection of getting rid of your smallest fish and keeping your biggest ones. Yep. So obviously, the more weight, the better.
Right.
Yep. So that
Not like at the doctor's office.
little different, little different. Yep. That's culling, and then we see the weigh-in. Okay, the weigh-in. On these bigger ones now, everybody gets a boat number. If you're with your boater and your co-angler, everybody has their boat number. And depending on what field, there's usually different fields, like 1 through 25 and 26 through 50, something like that. And you have scheduled times to come back in. Flight number 1, flight number 2, it's based on flight. But come into the weigh-in at your time. It might be 3 or it might be 3:15. It's always 8 hours most of the time. But you can't come in on your designated time. Do not be late, because then you're deducted a certain amount of weight per minute that you are.
That's why you always see those guys racing back.
Racing back. Yeah, and you see those memes on Facebook with the boat flying out of the water. Yeah.
All it's touching is the
Yeah,
motor.
yeah, it's because we're 10 minutes from launch. We're 10 minutes from launch, but we only have 7 minutes left. Yeah, so it's
that's where the 84 miles an hour
comes in handy sometimes. Yeah, it comes in handy sometimes. So, most of these big ones, they provide you a weigh-in bag, and the co-angler, out of the kindness of his heart, usually walks up to grab the bags for himself and for the boater. If you're a cool one, anyway, he usually does it. So then you guys walk up together. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you walk up. They have big tubs, basically. They have flowing water in there, and you carry your bag of fish. You put your fish in there, and you put the bubbler in your bag, and you wait one by one. Everybody weighs their fish, and you just wait. You wait until the end, and it gets pretty intense when when you're at the top, and it's like 45 minutes into the weigh-in, and it just keeps dragging, and it keeps dragging, it keeps dragging, and you wait for the last person to weigh in and hope that they don't have more than you do.
Right.
You know, it can really drag on, but it can be pretty exciting too. But that's the basic gist, and at the end of it, if you're in the top, usually it's top 3, top 4. Sometimes they'll ask you what you did for the day, and half the time you'll get the right answer, and half the time you won't, because some people just don't want you knowing, like, what they caught them on. Like, yep, like,
especially if it's a multiple day.
yeah, you don't want, like, most of the time they don't ask you that question until like after the multiple day. They don't want,
the last day of the
yeah, because I'd be saying I caught him on a deep diving jitterbug or something like that instead.
Just throwing out random stuff.
Yeah, yep. But it's a lot of fun. I encourage everybody to do it. Like, even if you're a boater, I encourage you to do it. Because there's a lot of boaters that aren't comfortable with somebody else fishing in their boat. They've always been alone, and there comes a time when you want to do a tournament, you have a co-angler, or you do these tournaments and you're just not comfortable having a co-angler in the boat, and a lot of people struggle with that.
You have to have a co-angler?
No, sometimes if there's not as many co-anglers as there is boaters, a boater could be alone by himself.
But they still have to stick to the front of the boat, though.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Which they wouldn't want to be in the back anyway.
Right. No. Yeah. But.
Yep. What else can you think of?
I got nothing. So different types of tournaments. So are there like tournaments where there are partnerships or things like that, or is it always
Yeah,
the same?
there's team tournaments. Yep.
So you could have multiple people in the same boat, fish
Yep.
together.
Like Frank's tour with NBS, like they're all team tournaments. So if you know somebody that you're good friends with, or somebody else that owns a boat, and
So you
and
could
you
team
don't,
up with a boater.
yeah, you could
go
team
in.
up with somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah. And me and TJ, my buddy that I fish with now, absolute hammer, but we've been fishing together for 16 years as a team, and that's how we started. It was just as a team.
You still do that?
Yeah, we still do it.
A couple times a year, or
what? Oh, a lot. No, like 20 of my tournaments this year will be club tournaments as a team.
Okay.
As a team. That's part of the reason why I also like fishing as a co-angler in these, is because I've got so much experience of being in the back of the boat that I actually don't want to be in the front of the boat. I feel like I'm more successful being out of the back.
Oh, you're in
That's
your
where
element.
my comfort is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where my comfort is. But no, it's a lot of fun. I encourage everybody to at least try it. But I also encourage to fish the whole season. Fish a whole season in one of these as a co-angler. And it's going to give you views on both sides. It's going to let you understand a little bit what the co-angler has to go through, or what's going through, and what you're going through. So I think it's a really good idea. I think it's a good idea. You guys are going to learn a lot about both positions, especially a boater, because most of the time a boater, after he fishes, even one, is going to say, "I'm never going to do that ever again. I'm never going to fish a co-angler tournament ever again." And that's fine. That's fine. But that's about the mindset thing again, is I don't let that control me. Just because it was a bad day or a bad experience doesn't mean my next experience is going to be.
Yeah, because your next experience could be
awesome. Could be amazing. Yep. Could be absolutely amazing. So I don't let that discourage me whatsoever. And the more you can learn, the better. So if you're a boater and you're still trying to learn something else, maybe just going out as a co-angler ain't so bad. You'll pick something up.
Right.
No matter where you are, what tournament you are, you are learning something every time. There isn't one tournament I haven't been to in a co-angler tournament that I haven't learned something, whether it be learning from me or me learning from them. There's so many tactics and ideas that people share different ideas upon, that it's unbelievable. There's so much information out there, and without doing these and experiencing that stuff, you might never do it, might never understand it, might never see it.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Let's say today I was like, you know what, I wanted to give this a shot, or I want to look into this. Where do I go to see what tournaments are coming up?
Oh, see, a lot of it's, I know everything by word of mouth, and I know the clubs I'm going to fish. So they're out. I know there's something, what is that whole thing that gives you the whole list of all the tournaments in New York for the whole season?
So there's a couple different ways to search online. Like you can search upcoming bass tournaments in New York State.
Okay, so searching online upcoming tournaments.
A lot of these you can find online. Facebook is a good place to find a lot of tournaments.
What about that, like major fishing, where we were saying the leagues?
All of those have their own websites too, with all their schedules on.
Yep.
It's all there. If you do a little bit of research online, you find pretty much anything you want to find.
Yeah, because they're not really secretive of it. They want people.
Oh yeah, they want everybody going.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, most of it, you type in just tournament fishing, and all those big ones. Yeah, all those big ones are gonna come up, the big names. But yep. But you can type in probably Google on local club fishing tournaments, and I'm sure they'll pop up. I'm sure they're constantly popping up all over the place, especially if you like are belong to any fishing clubs that are on Facebook. I mean, there's constantly something going on somewhere. Um, uh, but if you're locally right around here, Tuesday, if you want to just get into tournaments and just figure it out, a good idea. It's cheap and it's easy. It's a good lake to go to in Saratoga Lake and just do a Tuesday night tournament or Thursday night tournament. They're 3 hours long. You're with a teammate. Um, and it's a good little lake you can catch fish on. Everybody usually catches their limit, and it gives you a kind of tournament aspect of what's going on. And it's really friendly. Everybody is awesome. Everybody knows each other. It's a good idea to get into. Um, but fish, fish as a co-angler, um, don't let it discourage you. I mean, I've been doing it for 16 years,
Most
and
important piece of information in your brain,
yeah,
most important gear.
is your mindset. You know, is your mindset at anything. I think. Um, I mean, you can have the nicest gear in the world. I mean, I have beautiful setups here. You can have the nicest gear in the world, and that doesn't matter if you're not going there prepared. If you're not going there prepared, if you're not set in your head, then you might not even show up.
Show up with a Barbie reel and you'd be all right.
You know, that's the thing is, before I got all this nice stuff, before I hooked up with 307 and everything else, I didn't have really nice stuff. I still don't have the most beautiful stuff in the world, but I still caught fish. Like my first frogging rod was an ugly stick that was my grandfather's from like 19, I don't even know when. I couldn't even read Shakespeare on it anymore. I couldn't even read it. But that was like one of the first rods that I threw in a tournament. Was that for a frogging rod? Um, yeah, and it was bad. I started out with nothing. My buddy had a little 14-foot John boat that he built a deck in, and that's what we fished tournaments out of. And we didn't have much,
Right.
but we won. But we were winning tournaments, and you don't have to have the nicest stuff in the world. You don't. Does it help? Yes, it definitely does. Having very nice equipment makes things a whole heck of a lot easier. But you don't need beautiful stuff. You don't need.
Here, a couple questions before we wrap up,
Yeah.
if you don't mind. Do you have a favorite fishing trail, Embrace?
My favorite fishing trail. I love I love the ABA. That's without a doubt my favorite fishing trail. But the other ones that I really like doing is Greenbush Bass Association. They put on a great trail that's actually getting really big. I like NBS, uh, which Frank's right here. That's a great little trail. I like the Casion Rods tournaments are really nice. JJ does a great job with those. Um, Renalds Tour does trail too.
Which trail would you recommend to someone just getting into tournaments for tournament fishing?
Oh, just first getting into tournaments? I'd probably say Tuesday or Thursday nights at Saratoga would probably be your best bet because it's just there's people in rowboats. There's people in $100,000 bass boats, but there's such a wide array of anglers that are there that it's probably the most comfortable circumstance that you're going to be in as far as a tournament. Would you agree or not?
Yeah.
That's probably the easiest way. It's show up, give them the money, pull a number, and off.
Saratoga
Super
Tuesdays,
easy.
Thursday nights.
Yep.
Wow.
Tuesday and Thursday nights. Tuesday nights are held at Lee's campground, and Thursday nights are at South Shore. South Shore. So those are easy, really easy tournaments to get into, and gives you the basics on how the tournaments ran, and guys that run it are awesome, and everybody that fishes it. I don't think there's ever been a single argument between anybody anywhere. So it's been those are good clubs. Those, you know, those are good. But any of the clubs around here, I wouldn't hesitate to fish. There isn't. I don't think there's one club that's absolutely horrible. I mean, there's some wishy-washy, but everybody is going to be is pretty welcoming. But
Tuesdays and Thursdays, what time? Jerry is asking.
they're 5 to 8.
5 to 8.
5 to 8. Yep.
Okay, so nighttime.
Yep. They're 5 to 8. So everybody getting home from work or whatever can still fish. They can get the last 3 hours of cool weather to fish. And the bites usually really good.
Tuesday, Thursday.
Tuesday and Thursday.
Wow.
Yep. Thursdays are 5 to 8 too, right? Yep.
So further on in the summer.
Yep. No, there. If you're just getting into it, that's where I'd start. That's where I started.
10 weeks in the year on, something like that.
Yeah, I think there's 8 or 9 tournaments.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. No,
All the questions I have at this point, unless somebody types something in.
just keep fishing. Just encourage everybody to fish, man. Just go out. Whether you're gonna be a boater, you're gonna be a co-angler or anything, just get out and fish, and what it's gonna do being a co-angler is give you a whole wide array of techniques. It's gonna totally expand your abilities and what you're comfortable in throwing. I hated throwing a drop shot until I started competing in the ABA and stuff like that, because I never had to throw it because it wasn't in my comfort. Like me and my buddy were always stuck to one type of fishing, which I still like to do. But now I can fish a drop shot and I can fish a Ned rig and stuff like that, which I wasn't very good at before. But now with some years of experience, now that I know about it, I that's more in my arsenal now, and would have never been if I didn't start doing these tournaments.
Would you say as a boater too, it might be a good idea to go in a co-angler too?
Just to try it, because you want to.
You're in a different. Like I feel like when you're not in control, you know what I'm saying. It kind of puts you in a different, like where you have to be able to fish in each circumstance.
And and it gives him a different point of view, because he might totally never have fished as a co-angler, so doesn't really understand like what is going on. But until they do sit back there and then have to deal with it, then it's like, oh man, and so I kind of encourage a boater just to step in our shoes at least once, just to see what it, try to understand it, just to open their minds a little bit what's going on with us in the back too.
Boater too, and give you a refresher. As a boater, you can get stuck in your ways.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
So switch it up and go be a co-angler and learn something new from somebody else.
Yep.
Who does it different than the way you do it.
It's not gonna hurt you
Switch it up.
at all. It's not gonna hurt you by going to a tournament as a co-angler one time. You're only gonna gain experience from that, and by gaining experience, there's no losing. So
yeah. It's like doing something with your offhand for a little bit or something like that. It's like now all of a sudden you have the ability that you're you know what I mean. You're more comfortable around.
Yep. Because before I was like one of my first ABAs. It was my first ABA season where I was kind of nervous throwing a drop shot, because I'm like, oh man, I'm going to be stuck out in the lake in 40 feet of water with a drop shot. And like, oh my God. And I was lost, and I didn't even end up throwing the drop shot all day because I wasn't comfortable with it. And I just ended up dragging a jig all day. But it probably would have helped me if I had expanded a little bit before that and learned how to use a drop shot. But these things make you learn stuff, and I think that's just fishing in general. Is you just never stop learning, or you can't stop learning. You just can't.
Cool.
You just can't. And I think things that keep you focused, I always bring something that keeps me focused too. I like write a lot of stuff, and then
Is that your coaster for your beer
No,
after the
this
tournament's
is-
over?
my dad died when my
Oh, I'm
dad
sorry.
died. No, years ago, and we had a really bad flood and we lost almost everything. But this was left, and it was his club membership card for the
Oh,
golf
wow.
course that I worked at and that he was on. This is old as hell, but it says his name on there.
Wow.
So every tournament,
You always got to bring something with you to keep you grounded.
every tournament,
That's great.
it stays in my back. So every time I want lose a little focus, I look at it. I'm like, okay, all right, I'm right back in the game again. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. Little memento things like that. Keep going.
All right, Matt. Well, thank you so much, man. We really do appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Had
you,
a
everybody
great
at
time.
home, for tuning in to us. You know, we do this every Thursday, pretty much every Thursday night throughout the summer. I know this is Tuesday night, so we filled up so much Thursday nights that we actually branched off into the Tuesday nights now. So thank you again, Matt. And we're also going to be putting this on our YouTube channel as well. So if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, make sure you do. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit that thumbs up and let other people know about us. FISH307.com. We try to help other people out. We try to, you know, get the good side of fishing going. You know what I mean? Good vibes. So thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate you, and we'll see you all next time. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm off. I'm off. I was a little bit more comfortable on this one.
Yeah, I think it was. I don't want to whatever, but I feel like talking kind of breaks it between you being in front of just the camera.
It does. It kind of, yeah, it kind of helps me keep going too, because then I just would have been focused on that, and then that exact question, and then we would have been done like an hour ago. Did we really? Wow. I didn't realize it was that long. Yeah. Holy shit. I didn't realize.
At first, before you started going back and forth with questions, I was like, man, show me how many slides there are. We got it like 40 minutes.
And dude, and I get a lot of fucking questions, a lot of calls all the time. Like, dude, what are you doing? How do you do it? How do you do it? And then the last time Richie was saying, you just got to do a co-angler seminar. I was glad he said it, because I get too many calls, and it drives me crazy trying to answer questions from everybody personally messaging me, you know, and it's like Monday. Yeah, I think everybody got the drift. Does this work?
Oh, that's yours?
Yep.
Well,
Yeah,
check it.
just make sure first, right? Because that would have sucked if we poured it out and it was all over the floor. Yeah. Yeah. That's cold anyway. Frank, I got $20 in my pocket for gas for you too. What's that?
I don't have the pull for that. That's a Jeff.